Welcome to another installment of Test Chamber. I'm Matt Miller, joined by Dan Tack.
Hello.
Jeff Marchiafava.
Hey.
We are taking a look at Battleborn. And, guys, I wish I had better news for you.
What is the...
I've been playing a lot of Battleborn.
Okay.
Working on our review. Our review is not done because I will say this is a pretty big game. There's a lot of stuff to look at, a lot of characters to learn about.
Looking at some
A lot of things to understand about the game. But I can't say that I'm having really any fun with this game. Battleborn's the new game from Gearbox, the same guys who brought us the quite wonderful Borderlands, a game that I think all three of us quite enjoy.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a fan.
And at first glance, there might be some things about this game that make you think of Borderlands. The kind of slightly more cartoony aesthetic, the crazy powers, even some of the monster designs recall a little bit of that other franchise. But do not be fooled. Battleborn is not the same game and is not anywhere near as entertaining of a game as
I don't know, man. I just grenaded that guy.
as Borderlands. So here's the thing. Like, this game is trying a lot of new things, and I give it credit for that.
Right.
And the other thing that I want to say right off the bat is that it does have a lot of characters. There's a lot of different styles of play that you can explore, which is pretty cool in concept. Like, I like the idea of having a whole big stable of characters that you can dive into. But then everything else about the game that I've experienced in the first several days that the game has been out, I've been playing it for hours every day, it just isn't fun.
I don't know, man. Look at those tight shooting patterns.
So you guys have both played a little bit of this as well. I know, Jeff,
Yeah.
you played some in preview, at which point we were
Yes.
still kind of hopeful. We've all seen, working in the field that we do, games that like aren't amazing in preview, but really come together in the last couple of months. But what were your experiences when you played preview? What were there things you liked, things you didn't like?
Well, the first time we played it was during the cover story trip that we went on, and we only played PvP at that point.
Yep.
And I think there are a lot of games out there where if you are with a group of friends and you're playing against, another group of friends or someone, you can have a fun time, with some leeway in what the game is actually doing.
Sure.
And so we had a good time. It certainly showed a lot of promise, but it
was early.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was very early. But then a couple months ago, Dan Tack and I played a story mission like this, and we both kind of walked away with pretty much the same impression that it sounds like you've been coming to, which is we ran around, we shot a lot of stuff, we kind of liked the wacky characters, but something's not clicking with it.
Yeah. Well, so we're on one of the early story missions right here, and
Yeah, look at this guy. He's really cool.
well, the first glance does seem
Gosh, I'm gonna die.
to reflect something, that like, oh, this looks like a fairly standard like first-person shooter. There's a bunch of things that just, the more you look at it, the more things just don't connect. One of them is that like pay attention to like
Oh, man.
the just the connection between the damage that's being done to the player character and the damage that's being done to the enemies. It just doesn't connect. There's always this sense when you're shooting that you're kind of almost not in the world.
Gosh, I'm gonna die.
And when you shoot other things, it's the same way. I mean, certainly their health bars go down, but you rarely get this sense that just the standard shooting or melees that you're going to do make any big difference.
They're not really responding
No.
when, Tack's unleashing an entire magazine into him, and he's just kind of
That's 'cause these guys are
doing the
hardcore,
animations that he's already doing.
Dude, these guys are hardcore.
They are hardcore, but
They don't mind.
now you did just have a thing happen that is one thing that I like, something that they've cribbed from the MOBA genre that they have borrowed a lot of things from MOBAs in this game, but you have a new augment available. If you
sure
press
do.
up,
And I'm about to get one.
Yeah, you can select between two different options here in how you like upgrade your character, and I do like this system. I don't know that it gives you as much of a sense of advancement as you kind of want it to.
Right.
You want in any given match to really go from being kind of cool to being super, super cool by the time you hit level 10. And I never, with all the different characters, I rarely get that. I always feel like they're sort of minor changes to the way that a character plays. With the exception of partway through your leveling, you do get your third power, which is a significant change.
Yeah.
But other than that, I just never get too excited about it.
That's right. We should know we're only looking at single player here, and there's co-op and there is multiplayer.
Yeah. We'll talk about some of that stuff, but I did want to point out that like just while we're talking about the core gameplay stuff here, not only is there this sense that like when you're shooting stuff, it's not really connecting in the way that you want it to, but you also like if you get up close to these guys.
Man, I don't want to do that.
I understand, but like when you get up close and they're hitting you, see, there was an example right there. That guy meleeed you.
He did. That looked like it really hurt.
And the melee system in this game just doesn't work. There's several characters that are entirely built around using close-range attacks.
Oh, man,
and when you're
wailed me
using
with that
them...
thing. All right, time to launch a nuke. Yeah.
When you're using them, you just don't get the sense that you understand what's happening. It's just this maze of color and bright lights on the screen because you're so up close. I mean, I know that this is a sort of a core problem with first-person melee. There's very few games out there that have figured out a way to do it well. But frankly, that's not my problem, right? like that's the game's problem, right? Mm-hmm. Like they have not found the solution, and yet they've based a core element of their game around using melee. You're using the character right now that's pretty much the like stereotypical
Yes,
Call of Duty kind of character. His name's Oscar Mike, I think.
That is correct.
But there's other characters who are just like, I'm just going to use a sword, right? And slash around at stuff. And there's times that the levels just don't seem to be well set up for that. Where you're fighting a boss, that getting into melee range with them is a disaster.
Sure.
And so if you're playing solo, it just kind of doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Or at least it doesn't work well. So I don't know. So core gameplay issues, some big problems there. I will also note that the mission that you're on right now, these 8 single-player missions, are in many cases very long, and you have a certain number of lives. And when you die, when you run out of lives, you're out of lives. Like that's it. Mission failure. If you fail an objective, like to defend a particular place, it's mission failure, and you need to restart that mission. If you're in public matchmaking, what it actually does is like you'd have 5 players all playing together. You could get, I kid you not, an hour into a mission, because some of them are that long. Yeah. You have no way to quit out. There's no way to set a checkpoint and come back to it. And when that mission fails, not only does it end the mission and you need to do the whole thing over, but on top of that, it disbands the public team just automatically. And so the people you've just been playing with, who you've been trying to figure out how to get through the mission, you've just been disconnected from. I don't know why you would do this.
Not to play devil's advocate here, but didn't it kind of work like that in Destiny before? For the Nightfall Strikes?
I think in the Nightfall Strikes, they never had matchmaking. And moreover, the Nightfall Strikes that they had in that game, they changed in year 2 because they recognized that a lot of people didn't like that idea.
Right.
I mean, that's... Yeah. And I would also argue that in Destiny, that was one particular match type. It wasn't story missions. It wasn't normal strikes. It was like the hardest of the hard core strikes that you could go do. You had that functionality. Here, it's every story mission is that way. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think that's weird.
Yeah, and Gearbox had mentioned that to me too as well, about how they were trying to style them kind of like MMO raids, and I walked away with much the same feeling as you, Miller, and just it made me realize that one of the things that I really loved about Borderlands so much was kind of just exploring a big open world at your own pace, and I wasn't really looking for, like this super hard and challenging, like win or die and have to completely restart over. Because Tack and I played one mission like that too, and I mean, we just rolled through everybody until the last boss, and it was like a never-ending horde mode kind of thing. And when we actually finally ended up failing, like, we didn't really even know how it happened so quickly. But then it's like, okay, well, restart the entire 45-minute mission again. And
Yeah.
That was kind of lame. Yeah.
While we're talking, we're talking over the dialogue that is part of this game.
Let's talk about the dialogue.
Let's talk about it, because man, I don't know what's going on here. Like, Borderlands managed in a certain way to have this sort of charm of this kind of juvenile, goofy humor that nonetheless totally worked. Like, it genuinely was laugh out loud funny at certain points, just because of the nature of the way they built the characters and an overall feel of the world. You don't have that here. There's something that just doesn't connect about the humor that they're going for and the dialogue that they're shooting for. It's all just kind of cringeworthy. And you also don't really know who these characters are, why you're playing with them, why they're allied, like where they come from. And they try to unfold some of that through both the actual fiction of play, of like the different missions.
I'm so good. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just so good at this game.
You did so well, Dan.
bravo. I
don't know, man. The story just has not been doing it for me.
Yeah, and that's another thing where I think, not to compare everything back to Borderlands, but it does have a very similar tone. And in Borderlands, you had dozens and dozens of hours to kind of get to know your character and the few other NPCs that were important in that series. And in this, it just kind of feels like you're taking 5 random totally wacky characters and throwing them into this one mission, and they're trying to throw so much at you so quickly that it just kind of feels forced in a way.
Yeah. Now, the other major component of this game is the multiplayer stuff, the versus multiplayer.
Right.
That's where, at least in part, they're looking to MOBAs as a direct inspiration. Now, Dan, of the three of us, I think it's quite safe to say that you're the person who has the most experience with MOBAs here.
That's accurate.
What's your experience with that multiplayer?
Oh, I've only played like 8 matches so far, so I don't know if I can speak to that. Okay, yeah, it has been great. All right, if you want a MOBA experience, there's probably better games out there.
I mean, my dilemma with the competitive experience is that, like, first of all, you're thrown into the mix and you really don't know the characters and how to play them well. And if you invest in the time it takes to learn a given character, that's great. But you still have some of the fundamental gameplay problems that you're seeing here, where it doesn't seem like you're as connected to the game world as you want to be. The shooting feels kind of stiff and vaguely unresponsive in comparison with other first-person shooters that are on the market right now. And
I would say that I like the multiplayer better than the single player.
I would agree with that.
I'll say that.
I think the multiplayer is more interesting than the single player. These really long single player missions that just seem to kind of go on forever.
I remember this mission. Me and Jeff played this mission. I would like to never play this mission.
But even then, like, there's something that just doesn't feel great about the competitive experience above and beyond just the core gameplay not being great.
Do you think that by stretching themselves so thin, by offering everything, essentially, this game has everything, like leveling up, unlocks, multiplayer, single player, campaign, story, all this stuff. Yeah. Do you think that by just having everything, did they just spread themselves too thin from a focused experience?
I don't know. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's hard to know the reasons behind why things don't happen the way that you hope they would in game development. I will be the very first to say I know plenty of developers quite well, and I know that even the best intentioned projects and plans sometimes just don't come together in the way that you want them to. And that may have been the case. There's nobody who like set out to make a game that was not fun, I don't think. But
right. I'm sure it's happened.
But I don't think it did in this case, right? Like, I think Gearbox, like, was pursuing an interesting idea and something that was going to be a little bit different from the standard FPS fare that's out there. But there's so many aspects of the gameplay experience that just don't work for me personally. It's really hard to recommend this. And that's frankly one of the reasons we wanted to do a test chamber today, is that like it is a big game. They didn't get us review code until the day of release, which is often a sign that like things might be a little bit dicey, but not
I
always.
don't know. I hesitate to say that just because the nature of online games, like this game,
I
isn't the same
understand.
as that co-op and stuff.
Exactly. Like sometimes there's exceptions to the rule. I think in this case, you could make the argument that like there was a single player thing here that they could have let people start exploring earlier, but they didn't. And there's other times that there's just other reasons that a really good game you can't start reviewing it until it's out, and I get that. But in this case, we've had it for a few days, and there's a lot to play. I'm still making my way through the story missions. There's certainly lots and lots more competitive stuff I need to play before I make a final call about it, and it's possible that I'm gonna like some stuff more the more that I play it. But it sure doesn't seem that way at this point in my gameplay experience with it. And I think we wanted to like let people know that if you're thinking about this, there's a lot of other shooters on the market. There's a lot of games that are competing for your attention and for your dollar. And I don't think this is one that I can tell you should spend your time on.
That's a bold statement.
It's hard for me to see who are the people who are really going to be able to enjoy this, because for me it just isn't working.
Yeah.
Is there any other points you want to bring up along that nature that you think you haven't addressed?
I mean, I think there's lots of small things.
Because I'm sure people are going to be like, why shouldn't I play this then? So besides the stuff we've already gone over,
I think that the story mission stuff, with each new one that I play, I've had 3 different public story missions that I played where I wanted to try to like get with other people and play with other people. I've had 3 of those that have just failed outright, like partway through the mission. Like 40 minutes into the mission, we fail an objective, and there you go. And that's really frustrating. It's not fun. And the missions themselves feel just too long. I feel like the enemies are so bullet spongy and so uninteresting to fight against. The AI,
this purple thing isn't exciting.
I mean, the AI is just like bad. I had a boss earlier today that I was fighting who literally just walked around a pillar for the entire fight as I like nailed him in the head with my gun.
Yeah.
When I use, like I was saying earlier, when I've used melee characters, I can't even understand what's on the screen, and there's no sense of like connection with the enemies that I'm fighting. It's the animation feels to me like weird. Like, look at the animation on this spider robot. Right?
I don't want it.
Like
don't make me do it.
It's purposeful, right? Like it's like part of the art style I think they're going for, but it's this weird sort of jerky animation style that seems like it has too few frames of animation, and it just doesn't look good to me.
There's something off about it. I'll say that. Yes.
The sound is wrong sometimes. It's weirdly distant. The music is like too far faded in the background, and even your own shooting sometimes doesn't like your own powers and your own weapon fire effects don't always sound like they're like front and center and matching up with what you would expect out of like a first-person shooter that's all about that kind of immersive, frantic shooting experience. I don't know, man. It's just like...
Or how about the fact that Tack has been playing like a 30-minute long escort mission right now? Like,
which, by the way, like note the health bar on that guy, on that S1 Wolf. Yeah. If that's depleted, the mission ends.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it is over.
Yeah.
And you have to redo the whole thing. I don't understand why in a modern game you would have that choice.
Maybe they're just trying to tell us to get good. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the missions Tack and I played had a lot of escorting and a lot of like wave based, hold this
Horde
point
mode.
for
Horde
3
mode.
waves.
Yeah.
We didn't see a lot of mission or objective variety.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me, with the exception of what I started with, which is to say that I do think it's interesting that they have a lot of different characters and a lot of different styles of play. I've really had a hard time finding something else about the game that I want to be like, yeah, you know, this thing is really cool. This is one reason that like you might really like this game, because there's so many other things that just don't feel like they hit home, especially for what has been hyped as this big game from a strong developer and an established publisher. There's been a lot of marketing muscle behind this game to make it be something that would be interesting, and I think, it's hard to know. Like we said before, it's hard to know in advance that a game isn't going to shake out the way that you want it to. I think even up till the last couple of weeks, we've been enthusiastic about Battleborn because you just don't know. Like, when you have a good developer and you have interesting new ideas that are at play, there's times that things can really shape up in those last few months of development, and a game that didn't previously feel great starts to. But I feel like this endless machine gun shooting that you're doing right now, just kind of walking around this giant escort target without any genuine feedback and without the enemies doing anything interesting, it's sort of a perfect example of everything that doesn't work for me about Battleborn. And
it's just sort of walking around.
I just want to get across that I think you'd agree I'm not the first person to like be super negative about a title or call it out for being problems. I'm often somebody who is looking for the best in a title and the best in a game, and the kinds of people who maybe would be able to find something to like here. And I've struggled with this game in recent days. I'd love it for it to be good. I think Gearbox is a great studio, and this does not change my opinion of that. I just don't know what happened here, that it did not come together the way that I wish that it would have.
Is this a case where like everything looks good on paper, but it just doesn't pan out in practice?
I think in this case, trying to look to MOBAs for inspiration and some of the other ideas that they were going for, kind of like, it does seem like there's this kind of like 90s cartoon aesthetic that they're kind of trying to go for, which on paper does kind of seem at least different, interesting in that regard. I don't know if it all sounded good on paper, but it did all sound different and new on paper. Like, it did sound like something that a kind of game that we hadn't played before, and that's why I think some of us were excited about it. But it just doesn't feel to me like it totally came together in the end. Thoughts?
I can't handle this anymore.
Yeah. Well, I wish as I started out here, I wish I had better news to share. But this is a look at Battleborn. We will have a full review sometime soon. But in the meantime,
yay, I like reviews.
Buy this game at your own risk.
Yeah,
because this is pretty much what you're looking at.
I think that is the most I've. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But that'll do it for us. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check in again on another installment of Test Chamber, where we will have more on new games as they release. And in the meantime, I guess
I got some purple things to kill.
You got some purple things to kill. We'll see you later.
Good luck, Dan.